In the world of soft drinks, two giants stand tall: Pepsi and Coca-Cola. The saga of these two behemoths began in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Coca-Cola, the elder of the two, was born in a pharmacy in Atlanta, Georgia, in 1886. It was a pharmacist, Dr. John Pemberton, who concocted the original formula, aiming to create a medicinal tonic. Little did he know that his creation would go on to become a global phenomenon. Meanwhile, Pepsi came into existence a few years later in the early 1900s. It was another pharmacist, Caleb Bradham, who invented the drink in his North Carolina drugstore. Bradham initially named the beverage Brad's Drink, but rebranded it as Pepsi-Cola in 1903, in reference to the digestive enzyme pepsin and the cola nuts used in the recipe. For several decades, Coca-Cola reigned supreme in the soft drink market, with Pepsi trailing behind. Their dominance was so profound that during the Great Depression, when many businesses were folding, Coca-Cola continued to thrive and expand. However, Pepsi was not to be overshadowed for long. In the 1930s, Pepsi introduced a 12-ounce bottle, double the size of Coca-Cola's standard 6-ounce serving, and priced it at just 5 cents, the same price as the smaller Coca-Cola bottle. This strategic move, known as the Nickel campaign, resonated with consumers, especially during the economic hardships of the Depression era. Pepsi's strategy was a game-changer. For the first time, Coca-Cola was faced with a formidable competitor, and Pepsi was no longer just the underdog. The soft drink market was no longer a monopoly, it was a duopoly, and the battle lines were drawn. The two companies began to invest heavily in marketing and innovation, each striving to outdo the other in a bid to win over consumers' hearts and taste buds. The stage was set for a marketing showdown that would redefine the beverage industry. The 1950s and 60s saw a ramping up of the marketing strategies by both companies. A shift was happening, and the giants of the soda industry were not about to be left behind. Pepsi and Coca-Cola were gearing up for a marketing showdown that would redefine the landscape of advertising. During this period, Pepsi launched what would become one of its most successful campaigns, the Pepsi Generation. This campaign was a stroke of genius that targeted not just the thirst of consumers, but also their identity. Pepsi was no longer just a drink, it was a statement of who you were. It was a call to the young and the young at heart, a declaration that this was their time, their generation. On the other side of the battlefield, Coca-Cola wasn't idle. They responded with their own iconic ads that have since been etched into the annals of advertising history. Coca-Cola's ads were masterpieces that tapped into emotions, creating timeless moments that resonated with people from all walks of life. From the heartwarming image of a young boy sharing a Coke with his dog, to the unforgettable tune of "I'd Like to Teach the World to Sing," Coca-Cola's ads were more than just commercials. They were snapshots of life's simple pleasures, beautifully captured and shared with the world. The impact of these campaigns was monumental. Both companies saw significant gains in their market shares, proving the power of effective marketing. But more than just sales, these campaigns shaped the identities of Pepsi and Coca-Cola, establishing them as more than just beverage companies. They were now symbols of lifestyles, of moments, of generations. And yet, these campaigns were only the tip of the iceberg. The Pepsi Generation and Coca-Cola's timeless ads were just the beginning of a fierce marketing battle. The cola wars were in full swing, and the battlefield was set for even more innovative and daring strategies. So buckle up, because this ride through marketing history is about to get even more exciting. In the 1970s, Pepsi took a bold step that shook the cola world. This audacious move was known as the Pepsi Challenge. It was a marketing campaign that would forever alter the landscape of the soft drink industry. The Pepsi Challenge was a blind taste test. Consumers were invited to taste two unnamed cola drinks. One was Pepsi, and the other was the reigning champion Coca-Cola. Without the influence of brand loyalty or preconceived notions, consumers were asked to simply choose which cola they preferred based on taste alone. The results were astounding. A significant majority of consumers, when stripped of brand bias, actually preferred the taste of Pepsi. This was a victory for Pepsi, but more than that, it was a revelation. It showed the world that the underdog could stand toe-to-toe with the giant, and it put Coca-Cola on the defensive for the first time in the cola wars. This campaign was not just a marketing tactic, but a strategic move that played on the psychology of consumers. It made people question their loyalty to Coca-Cola and gave Pepsi a credibility that it had been lacking. But the Pepsi challenge did more than just sway consumer preferences, it also sparked a fierce competitive spirit in the cola market. Coca-Cola was no longer the unchallenged leader. Pepsi had emerged as a serious threat to their dominance. This was a significant turning point in the cola wars, a moment that marked the beginning of an intense battle for market supremacy. The Pepsi challenge was a clear demonstration of the power of disruptive marketing. It's a testament to how a well-executed campaign can shift the balance of power even in an industry dominated by a single player. It's a reminder that no matter how big or powerful a brand is, it can be challenged, and it can be beaten. The Pepsi challenge was a game-changer, but Coca-Cola wasn't ready to back down. In 1985, Coca-Cola made a move that would go down in marketing history as a colossal misstep. The soda giant, in an attempt to regain market share from Pepsi, decided to change its century-old secret formula. The company introduced what it called the New Coke, expecting it to be a game-changer. But they couldn't have been more wrong. The public's reaction to the New Coke was swift and brutal. Consumers, loyal to the classic taste, were outraged. Letters of complaint flooded Coca-Cola's headquarters, protests were organized, and some even threatened lawsuits. What was intended as a bold stride into the future quickly turned into a stumble. The New Coke was an epic fail. Now, let's shift our focus to Pepsi, Coca-Cola's fierce competitor. They say one man's loss is another man's gain, and Pepsi proved the saying right. While Coca-Cola was desperately trying to clean up its New Coke mess, Pepsi was having a field day. Instead of being threatened by Coca-Cola's new product, Pepsi saw it as an opportunity. In a masterstroke of marketing, Pepsi declared that the introduction of New Coke was the ultimate validation of the Pepsi Challenge results, a taste test campaign they had run earlier, where blindfolded participants had preferred Pepsi over Coca-Cola. They even released a statement, cheekily expressing sympathy for Coca-Cola's midlife crisis. Pepsi's response to the New Coke fiasco was a textbook example of how to capitalize on a competitor's misstep. They seized the moment, played their cards right, and made the most out of the situation. To sum it up, the New Coke debacle was a major setback for Coca-Cola. But every cloud has a silver lining, and for Pepsi, this was a golden one. They turned Coca-Cola's disaster into their own triumph, further intensifying the legendary Cola Wars. New Coke was a disaster for Coca-Cola, and a golden opportunity for Pepsi. The marketing battle between Pepsi and Coca-Cola is a case study in competition, innovation, and public relations. A dance of giants that has spanned over a century, it's a tale brimming with lessons for businesses of all sizes. One of the most significant takeaways from this legendary rivalry is the importance of understanding consumer preferences. Pepsi's success in the Pepsi Challenge, for instance, was largely due to their understanding of the consumer's preference for a sweeter taste in blind taste tests. This insight allowed them to tailor their product and marketing strategy to appeal to this preference, gaining an edge over their competitor. However, understanding consumer preferences is not enough. It's also crucial to consider the risks of making drastic changes. Coca-Cola learned this the hard way with the New Coke fiasco. In an attempt to regain their lead, they changed their century-old recipe, a move that backfired spectacularly. This debacle reminds us that while innovation is important, it should never come at the expense of alienating your loyal customer base. Lastly, the power of effective advertising cannot be overstated. Throughout the Cola Wars, both Pepsi and Coca-Cola have used creative, engaging, and at times, daring advertisements to capture the hearts and minds of consumers. From celebrity endorsements to catchy jingles, these ads have played a pivotal role in shaping the public image of these two iconic brands. But the Cola Wars aren't just about competition, they're also about coexistence. Despite their fierce rivalry, Pepsi and Coca-Cola have coexisted for over 100 years, each pushing the other to innovate and improve. It's a testament to the fact that competition, when done right, benefits not just the companies involved, but also the consumers they serve. As the Cola Wars continue, there's no doubt that both Pepsi and Coca-Cola will keep us on our toes with their marketing strategies. The next chapter of their rivalry is yet to be written, but one thing is certain, it will be just as captivating as the ones that have come before.